Alright, so Kara's going to do she's going to work the skunk, and Derek's going to work the muskrat. So we're going to let Kara pull the skunk.
Okay, but what are we doing now? It's heavy.
Alright, just let it drip dry for a second. Or not drip dry, but drip a little bit. Drain a little bit. So, I do not rinse them off. Whenever I take them out, I leave them wet, and we're going to hang them up and let them drip. Now, the aluminum sulfate is still working in that fur while it's hanging. All right, go ahead. And Kara's just going to hang this up on the straps right there, and then we have the sled with a hole in it
This
to
is
catch
scary.
the tree. I'll hold your hand. All right, go ahead. Just hang it up on one of the straps.
I'm trying to make sure that it's...
Don't worry about it. I'll clean up anything it misses. Just slip it over top the hook. You're gonna put it in the hole.
Yes, what else? Oh.
Just hang it over. It's
Okay,
fine.
what were you gonna
All
do?
right,
Oh
go
my
ahead and
gosh,
come down.
It's getting everywhere.
It's no big deal. All right, so we'll do this a little bit,
Okay, Daddy.
and so that's just gonna drip there. And for the most part, it's just gonna catch in the sled, and then it's Derek's turn. So this is the muskrat. His nose. And hold him there and let him drip a little bit. And then Derek is just going to do the same thing Kara did and lift it all the way up. Hang it on that one strap over to the side. So hang it on this strap right here where I'm pointing. On that one. Can you reach it?
I'm worried that I might fall.
Can you get it? Stretch! That works.
I can get it on there.
That works. That's okay. Alright, come on down.
This is fun.
Alright, so that's really simple. They're just hanging. And Derek, I think I am going to actually move that off the wire just for sake of not hanging on a wire.
Where did I put it?
Just set it inside the sled. Okay. Now this is our raccoon and our fox, and we're going to take them out of the...
Oops. We have multiple fox in there?
It's the fox, it's the mink, and it's the raccoon.
You forgot
So-
to mention the mink.
Yeah, I forgot to mention the mink, you're right. So we're going to pull that out of there, and I am going to transfer the raccoon into its own solution. Because it's really fatty, kind of. I should have done that to start with. I think moving forward, I'm actually going to put each fur in its own solution, its own container. So I'm not going to put several furs in the same one. You understand. So I'm going to be transferring these all to their own containers. So I need to dump this solution. It's amazing how dirty the water is. So a lot of the, the old dried blood and stuff, it's coming off. So the furs are cleaning up. You can see I'll show you the water. It's really gross, but everything's coming off of the furs now, and you can tell. So all the old dried blood and whatever the oils and that, it's all kind of mixed in there. It's all gross, but I'm going to dump all this old solution out, and we're going to get them into a fresh bath individually. So every fur, its own bath.
Okay.
All right, so I have an empty bucket now, and for this one, we'll just use the fox. The fox will go into there, and I'm going to pour solution in. All right, so I'm just going to add enough solution to it to get the fur covered. That'll do. And then the same thing.
Are you putting any more solution in this bucket?
Yeah. It's the mink. I'll put that in a small bucket because it's small. And then the coon's in there. So same thing with the coon. Same thing with the mink. Alright, so I was noticing with the way these furs look, I can tell that the fox is getting close to ready. So what I do is I look for a spot where you can see the leather, so not a spot with all this, the meat and grime and stuff on it. The old blood. This is a really messy one, so it's not a great example for the first one, but what I'm seeing is up around the face where the leather is easy to see. It's got that look that you can see that it's changed. It's taken on a wet, tanned leather look. So that's kind of how it looks whenever it gets tanned. And you can see the meat that's hanging onto it there. If you kind of pull on it and stuff, you can tell that stuff's even tanned. It's like beef jerky or something. It's got a certain texture to it. The lips look different. There's like a whiteness kind of colored to it. It's the color of it mostly, but there's also the way it pulls too. It starts to really feel like it feels thicker, it feels like a leather. It feels durable. You can it feels tightened. That's kind of what tanning does too. The alum sulfate has a way of tightening the leather, so it takes on a different feel to it. You can start to notice it if you do it a few times. At least I'm starting to notice. But it's not quite done, but it's almost. I can see that it's making progress. There's really nothing to look at on the fur side, except I did a really good job on the eyes. Oh, nope, there, that one. So not a great job there. That one's a good eye clear, but again, not the prettiest fur in the bunch. But that one, this is the thinnest, aside from the skunk and the muskrat. This is a thin fur, and I can start to see it here. So tomorrow I'll take this one out of the solution, and it'll be done. Even the raccoon is starting to show that it is tanning. Like there's spots on it that it's taken a tan, but on the back, you can actually see that it's still kind of hard. Like it moves, but it's kind of hard. That's because on the back, between the ears, like on its shoulders, it's a thicker leather. And so it's still stiff right there. It's still, the chemicals are still getting through and penetrating to it. But on the belly, where it's thinner leather, it's kind of like the fox right now. So it's kind of tanning up right there. So I'm glad that I put it in a new bath of solution, because this raccoon was so greasy. It's going to need a little bit more time. But anyways, it's not anywhere near done yet, of course. I'm probably going to leave it in this bath solution for, 4 days, something like that, maybe 5 days. And then the mink, you can actually look at the coloration of that. You can see it has changed a lot. So the meat, the saddle that I had left on this mink, I had mentioned, I commented, I left a thick saddle. That all has to come off. But it's tanned all the way through to the skin. Now even this mink, I'll probably just give this another day or two, because if you look at that, it's got like a caramel color to it, to the saddle. I mean, that's tanned. The saddle itself is tanned as of right now. So probably tomorrow I can remove this one as well. And I'll start working the leather and getting it down, getting rid of the meat and getting right down to the leather. So this one might be done just tomorrow as well. So we'll probably work this one and the fox first at the same time. And then the coon, that'll probably come out in a couple more days. But they're obviously progressing pretty good. I feel like I should say something about handling this stuff with the alum sulfate, with the tanning solutions. Alum sulfate, when it's mixed with water, creates sulfuric acid, which can cause irritation and things like that. You won't notice because I always cut the camera off, but I'm washing my hands after each time I handle these. So just wash your hands frequently. You can wear gloves, sure, that's probably the best idea. I'm just washing my hands a lot. The mink in the top bucket, the coon in the middle one, and then the fox all the way down the bottom one, and just nestled them in there. So they're all underwater, or they're all in the solution. All right, so I let them hang overnight, and the kids are at school. I'm just going to pull them down and put them fur out so they dry, so the fur dries, and then we'll have a look at it. So whenever it's tan, you can kind of do this and work it a little bit and see that it breaks the fibers up, and that's what we're going to be talking about, working the furs later. These thin furs, you do want to be careful because it's thin fur, you know. It's easy. You can damage it. This one's just a little bit drier than I like them to be when I flip them, but still damp, but just barely, you know. And the best tip I've seen on how to unfold these is you kind of take, like this is the belly, the side here, and I'm trying to push the back and the head against the back of the fur where it's thick. So I'm kind of holding this really solid so I don't damage it, and then I'm kind of pushing everything back there in. So you can see I kind of use my hand kind of like this. It just kind of rolls back through then. And it's probably not too tough to do. Just take your time. It's not a rush. You're putting some effort into making some nice furs. Just take your time. Now, to be honest, that fur is actually pretty dry. This is a thin-furred skunk. It's the first one I'm ever tanning. But I tell you, most of the skunk we catch down here, we don't get a lot of white. They're just, you know, younger skunk that I'm coming across. But anyways, first one I'm doing. I'm happy to be doing it. Maybe we'll do some more skunk in the future. I do think they're a good-looking fur. And I know the value of fur of a skunk is one that's pretty consistent. So if you're looking for a consistent fur price in an inconsistent market, skunk is actually a good thing to target. Alright, so I turned this skunk back to leather out, and you can see just from the turning process the fibers are already starting to break. So this is going to be a good one for my daughter to do. She'll break in the skunk, and it's going to be the easiest, I think. I mean, very comparable to a muskrat, but the thin fur should be easy for her to kind of break this in. So it just requires a little bit of working like this. And this leather is ideal right now. This is how you want it to look whenever you start breaking it in. So it's still got moisture in it, but it's dry enough that you can see the lines whenever you start to work it. You can see where the lines are, where that leather's been broke in. And I'm just working the belly of it real quick so you can kind of see how it looks. And you could certainly break the leather in like this, but I'm going to use a tool. And that's what it'll end up looking like. And it'll be a little softer then. But my daughter will work this one in. I'm just going to set this aside until I get a chance to get them in here, and we'll let them work these furs themselves. I'll rehydrate this one for her so that it's not as tough to work, and then I'll let it dry for a day or two before. Alright, so that's where the skunk's at right now. We're just going to set it aside. Just want to turn our attention to the larger furs here for a minute. We'll get the mink out of here first. Alright. Oh, good. The mink is good and pliable now. So that's great. It is fully hydrated. It is soaked all the way through. That alum's getting into every bit of it right now. That's perfect. That's what we want. Let's just let that drain for a second. That's great. That's really great. Alright, now because of the way this feels, there's like, it's still real oily, so it's obviously still drawing the oil out of it. Two things occurred to me over the last day or two just thinking about this mink. Is the heavy saddle is fine to leave on if you're, looking to send it off to auction or whatever. I think in the case of tanning, if you've got a heavy saddle like this mink has, you should really remove it. I think I'm pretty clear on why they do a salt bath and salt process to just strip all the meat and fat off of it. You get that grease and any material that's not in need of being tanned, you get rid of it. Because really you just want to tan the leather. Your solution and stuff is being used up on the meat. You know, you're tanning meat essentially here, and it's not the goal, of course. But nonetheless, this is where we're at. So I'm going to stick with this, and we'll just see how this goes. And I think on my second mink, I'm going to do the salt strip, if you will, with that process, but the salting process. But nonetheless, this does look like it's getting tanned. I can see it up here in the face really good. So we're going to keep rolling with this one just like I have been. But again, I'm going to give this another day. I don't think that's ready yet. So it might be. The skin does look pretty good. But because of the thickness of the saddle, I'm going to give it another day in the wash. All right, here's our red fox. So I'm just looking at it to see how the leather looks. I like to look at the thicker portion of the leather, so across its back, like its shoulders. That's the part I like to look at. And the way it feels, you can kind of feel how the leather gets tight. I was talking about that a little bit ago. It just handles differently. I think this fox is done. Let me think on that. And the coon doesn't look bad either. Okay, so I think I'm settled on it now. I'm going to give the fox one more overnight. And the coon I'll talk about tomorrow. He might get an additional day. So the coon might end up with 5 or 6 days in the bath. The fox might only end up with 4 full days. So, but the coon definitely needs a little more time. It's still, as a matter of fact, on its back here, it's still, you can feel how thick you can probably see how thick the leather is across its back compared to its stomach. It's real flimsy on the stomach, real stiff on the back. The back is what I'm concerned with. I think the stomach's fine. I think that's all tanned. I think that's good to go. Needs just a little bit more time on the back, I believe. It might be done. I'm going to give it at least one more day, though. I'm really liking the idea of the bucket nesting. I think that's a good one because that allows me to put, a series of furs underwater to be compressed and, submerged under the water. And you can can monitor each one individually. So I think this is a really good idea. I'll definitely adopt that whenever I do these furs. We've got plenty more furs here aside from this one. That's Kara's skunk. So aside from that one, these all need to be tanned yet. So I'm going to keep on rolling along. And I'm really hoping that I make a lot of mistakes through this entire process. Like I told my kids, failure is a much better teacher than success. So hopefully we have a couple failures on the front end of this. And I think we've already seen a few of them. And I'm learning. So as we go through this, I'll probably get a little bit better. And you'll probably learn because of my failures too. And hopefully that saves you some of your learning curve. You know what I mean? But we got plenty more to go. Stick with me. The videos aren't real long or anything. So just stick with me and we're going to go through these. And I think we'll all be better off for it. But before you finish this series, make sure that you familiarize yourself with the whole reason, the foundational reason of doing these tanning videos on video instead of just doing them for myself. The Leakway family. Read the information in the description and do what you can. Mostly, I know every single one of you can pray. So do that. At the very least, it's probably the very greatest. You understand? Say prayers. Prayers first, and then if you can get behind this family and help them out. All right, we'll keep trucking, and thanks for all the support, man. You guys are awesome, and I'll see you on the next one.